Do you feel like your voice is being drowned out in the social media realm? Are you sick and tired of social giants selling your data to the highest bidder? Would you like to get paid for the content you post and curate? Then you'll love Voice.com. Voice is a transparent, rewards-based social network for creating, distributing, and discovering content. It aims to foster a new and trusted experience through identity authentication and transparent database infrastructure. Voice is built by and for its users. The Voice token can be earned and consumed to acquire the attention of other users on the network. That's right. It slices, dices, purees, and comes with this amazing set of Ginsu knives. But wait, there's more. Today, you'll meet Salah Zalatimo, CEO of Voice. You'll hear our voices as they interview his voice, and then you can scream out loud at your podcast player so we can hear your voice. It's the Billy Mays Tribute, episode number 407 of the Bad Crypto Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition.
Who's bad?
Very nice, Mr. Joel Comm. That was like a combo of Billy Mays and Ron Popeil.
It was a Joel combo.
That was great. I want to buy some voice now. How do I?
I'm sure that when people heard that beginning, they actually thought it was like a commercial before the podcast. You never know. You never know what's going to happen here. The Bad Crypto Podcast. I am Joel Comm. That's Travis Wright. And these are our voices.
That is true. And we had a great pleasure of interviewing the CEO of Voice not so long ago. But before we get to that, we got a little sponsorification we'd like to chat about.
eToro has sent us some data for what's happening in the crypto world recently, and there's a few points here of data that are interesting from them. One of them is, while there was some calm again in crypto trades compared to previous weeks, Bitcoin is up in how many people are trading it. There more people are focusing on Bitcoin than anything else, and that makes sense because the halving was coming that previous week, and yeah,
and then also Neo got some traction, got 15% more traders in the previous week, and 75% of all amounts traded in crypto were invested in Bitcoin, and that's pretty handy.
And the average amount in April doubled in May so far, right? That's what they're saying. The amount I don't know how they could tell from the whole month, but because we're not through a whole month yet. But they said the amount invested in Bitcoin has doubled from the April average. Maybe that's
from the April average for that week, for that week.
Well, hey, if you guys haven't signed up for your eToro account yet, and you are in the United States, go to badco.in/eToro, and when you follow the simple instructions on that page, you can get $50 in free Bitcoin from myself and Mr. Travis Wright here at the Bad Crypto Podcast. Go to the page, badco.in/eToro. Do that. And shall we go?
Well,
what you got?
Well, you know what? I want to give a shout out to the real original Bad Brad Webb for winning the Bad Brad Garbage Pail Kid Prism. So he is the first winner of that. Now, there's some other people who might be a winner because we have been collecting some of these Garbage Pail Kids. So there might be some bonus ones out there. There's some other folks out there who had sent in an email on that. So don't email us anymore on that because those are all been taken. But we might actually give out more than just one. So
yeah. And it's important to note that, the card packs went for $4.95 during the sale. And of course, they all sold out. And now, if you go to the aftermarket sites, a pack of Garbage Pail Kids featuring 5 cards is selling for $40.
Actually, the price of wax went up. So I noticed that last night, the price of them were going for $51.
Holy cow.
That's
incredible.
That's on gpk.market, which was really interesting to watch how NFTs are taking the collectible world by storm, folks. So don't sleep on it.
Why would you sleep on an NFT?
Well, you can't because it's in the digital world. You can't sleep on it.
I would like an NFT pillow, please.
Oh, yeah. They're going for the cheapest one is going for $1,470 wax right now.
How much is a wax?
Wax, last time I checked, was 3.5 cents.
That's $51.45. Here's the brilliance on Wax's and Tops's side. when Top sells a pack of cards and, you got a Mickey Mantle card, you could then turn around, now 50 years later and sell that card for thousands of dollars. Topps doesn't get any of that. But with these digital cards, every time there's an aftermarket listing of packs or individual cards, Wax takes 2% commission and Topps gets 8%. So they're going to make into infinity every time there is a secondary transaction on the Wax blockchain for one of these cards. Topps makes 8% of that transaction.
Yeah, if you think about it, that's crazy because now these packs that were $5 are now going for $51, and 10% of that is $5. So basically, every time these packs are selling on the secondary market, it's like they sold a brand new pack again, and they're making. You're right. That's real. That's one of my favorite things about these NFTs. How Wax is doing them is that the original creators still get paid in the aftermarket. So that's brilliant. That's great stuff.
I think Wax is going to be something to really watch. They've stumbled into something here that I think is going to be big
with these Wax packs. Yeah, actually, I sold a sketch card. I just noticed it went through last night while I was sleeping. I sold a sketch card for 3,100 Wax.
Oh my! So that's about $100. That's about $100.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That sounds kind of sketchy, Mr. Travis.
For a digital collectible. Where the thing is, I can look at every single one of them on the screen. Like, why do I have to own it? There's this FOMO thing that makes you go, "Oh, I need to own this." But look, I can see it. Why do I need to own it? And there's no difference between owning it and just seeing it.
But you do own it. You do own it. That's the thing about this. And nobody, unless you get hacked, nobody can steal this from you. If somebody broke into your place, they could take all your baseball cards and then they're gone forever. Mm-hmm. Nobody can steal these cards from the blockchain unless you give them the key. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's really cool about these NFTs. We're going to be talking a lot more about NFTs in the future. Of course, we've distributed some of our collectible NFTs to you. And Mr. Travis Wright, what can we get an ETA on the loyalty NFT that we were going to distribute for those that have at least 5 of our NFTs? I know you were working on that, and I think it took a back seat because of the virtual event.
Let me go back into Fiverr and see the finished version because I've not saw the final connection. I need to put that together with some other stuff. So I don't know. We'll see.
Cool. Soon. We want to reward those of you who have collected the NFTs so far. And we're really excited about this interview. For those of you that follow the EOS Voice News podcast, we've done a number of episodes there, and we've been trying for a long time to get somebody from Voice to speak with us. We finally got in touch with Salah Zalatimo, who is the CEO. We released this interview on the EOS Voice News podcast, and we encourage you to go over to eosvoice.news and subscribe to that one. But the interview was so good, we thought that this is of general interest to the entire crypto world. So let's go to it. The social media space is broken. Some would say that the powers that be have too much power that be. And I would tend to agree. Wouldn't you, Mr. Travis Wright?
Well, you're so rhymey, Mr. Joel Cohn.
I'm feeling rhymey. I got it all up in my voice this morning. It's because I found my voice. Well, actually, we found the CEO of voice.com. Salah Zalatimo is with us this morning to talk all things social media, decentralization, and yet centralization, and what the future of Voice is all about. Salah, welcome to Bad Crypto.
Thank you very much, Joel. Thank you, Travis. Very happy to be here. And I absolutely agree. Social media is broken. And unfortunately, what we've come to depend on to empower us and to unite us as a society has ended up really deceiving and dividing us, unfortunately. And I think, given what's going on now with the lockdown, those flaws that a lot of the flaws of social media today, we've all known about, and we can all, not many will argue, but it's really all been exposed in this process. And you really think about, the beauty of social media was that it was making a global community. It was connecting everybody. But here we are in a lockdown, and I couldn't feel more disconnected than I do right now. And so I think there are a host of issues that if we were able to go back in time and rebuild social media platforms from scratch, we would do things quite differently. And I happen to be in the fortunate circumstance of being able to do just that.
Well, why don't you elaborate just a little bit on what the problems are? Why is it broken?
The first thing that we can likely agree on is that we don't trust social media anymore. Actually, we don't really trust media generally anymore. And I think
I just don't trust people.
There might be something there, right? Maybe this has nothing to do with digital. Maybe this is actually physical to begin with, right? But I think that if there is a seed of distrust in people, social media has allowed that to germinate and to flourish, really. Because now, at least in the physical world, when you're talking to somebody, you're talking to a human being. Now we live in a digital world where we don't even know if who we're talking to is real or not. We don't know if the information they're sharing is real or not. We don't know if this trend that is emerging on a platform is authentic. Is it actually a trend, or are there just millions of bots out there gaming the algorithm? When you're logging into a website with a social media login, is it actually just to make your life easier, a one-click login, or are they going to be tracking you all over the web now and secretly collecting data and selling it to other people? So I think trust is gone. That's problem number one. I think problem number two is that it is now in the hands of commercial interests more than it is in the hands of social interests. So once you begin to start making money through advertising, meaning selling people's attention to other third parties, as a platform without any accountability and transparency, that is a rabbit hole that is hard to resist the temptation to go down. And I think our friend, Mr. Zuckerberg, has shown very little hesitation in going down that rabbit hole as far as possible.
Yeah, and I would maybe even say part three is the censorship aspect of social media, right? It's like that right there has been so interesting. He was talking about our good friend, Mark Zuckerberg. He currently has been banning people who are creating groups and events around protesting this stay-at-home order, right? People are, one of our rights on the Constitution, Bill of Rights, is, hey, we have a right to assemble peacefully. And they've taken that away. They say that, there's been people in Raleigh, North Carolina, get arrested because protesting is not an essential activity. Right. So our rights are not essential activities now. Now, when it comes to social media, we're seeing a big problem. And actually, this is how Joel and I got going in the blockchain space originally. I had written an article on Huffington Post about the election and all the problems everybody was talking about. And it's like, well, you know what? We can bitch about the problem, or we can solve it, and we could have voter ID, and we could have blockchain voting, and that could make the whole system a little more transparent. As a result of that, a group reached out to Joel and I about helping them with the project, and blockchain based. It was going to be sort of a Reddit type of Twitter type of thing. It was called Deep Sea, and it was like, hey, let's take a look at every piece of content. Let's have the audience go out and search for bias and all this other stuff. And then he changed his mind and wanted to do a YouTube. And then if you don't have a clear vision at the helm, then things crash down. So that thing ended up going away. But it got Joel and I talking and saying, hey, let's create a podcast around blockchain and start looking for solutions that can make society better. Now, I think it's one of the things that we've really, had a North Star on, is because both of us are from the marketing world. And so social media over the last decade has been amazing. And then something happened where it just tweaked it, and now they've turned it, social media, against us. They ban content. They say who can have a voice and who can't have a voice. And maybe let's talk about that. And how does voice begin to solve some of those issues that we just talked about?
Absolutely, Travis. And I think what you're describing is, I would abstract it a little bit and say, why are we even there? Why is Facebook in a position to even be considering manual censorship, or manually and subjectively making those types of decisions? It's because the platform itself is flawed from its foundation. If you are at 2 billion, 3 billion users, I think real users are probably less than a billion, or definitely less than a billion on the platform. So if you're talking the hundreds of millions of people on a platform, and 15 years into existence, and having already earned something like $500 billion in revenue, and you have groups of people sitting in rooms actually debating whether something is and isn't okay, in 2020, something's gone wrong. And so that's exactly the kind of thing that we feel we can re-architect from scratch to empower the community to make those types of decisions, right? We don't believe that the platform should be the one determining whether something is and isn't okay. We believe the community on the platform should be the one determining that. And so we are taking a very specific and intentional product point of view here, where we plan on building tools for community self-governance. It's one of our core values.
Mm. So, all right, let's rewind a little bit. Let's go to voice.com. This is a domain that the word on the street is that Block One paid $25 million for. Is that correct?
I think the actual number is 30 million, but that is correct.
Wow. Is that the most ever paid for a domain name?
I think it is. I'm not sure, but I do think it is.
You beat sex.com, I think. Congratulations.
What's more important, having a voice or having sex? Who knows?
Well, both are important. Very important.
Having a voice during sex, I suppose, also might be important. Okay, so 30 million. Since that's straight from the horse's mouth here, that's a number that we'll use going forward. And we've gotten access, although it took some time to get invited into the beta. Which was sad for us. And then it took us some difficulty, in particular, around the struggle to get verified as an individual human being. Now, here's the question. Is there an inconsistency in wanting to have a free social media site where you have your voice and can say what you want to say and have your privacy, but give all of this information in order to be verified? There's some tension there, isn't there?
I think at that level, those two ideas seem like they might conflict. And so I think in order to understand it a little bit better, it's important to put them into practical context a little bit. So on one hand, you can say everyone having a voice means a free platform where anyone can say anything they want at all times. However, there are problems with that, right? So the first major problem is there are laws that limit what one can say on a platform. So the only way to truly have a wide open platform with no rules behind it is to somehow find a way to avoid sovereign jurisdiction. And many have attempted it. I don't think anybody has fully succeeded. I think even the infamous 4chan is an example. So that's not an aspiration of voice. We're not trying to be the impossible to govern or impossible to find organization where anything goes. We're trying to be something a little bit different. We're trying to be a community of voices where you know who you're speaking to, where you know that everybody on the platform is authentic and genuine. It means that we will all have to provide a significant amount of personal information and personal data to be able to verify life and identity, so that we are not subject to bot manipulation, so that we are not in a world where the social norms that we have in the physical world are kind of set aside and hidden behind a mask of anonymity. So voice will while it will not be a free-for-all type of environment where you can say whatever you want at any point, it will be a environment that is that empowers and respects the individual. We will protect your data and your rights to your data. People will be able to own their data, and we will be very proactive about what we're going to do with that data, if anything. So it is about privacy, and it is about identification, but it's about authenticity as well. And so the struggle that you went through with getting verified is more of a product lesson for us, in the sense that we want to make sure that is not that can't be a cumbersome process. And so I'll tell you that, Travis, your experience getting registered was really gave us a lot of fuel and a lot of motivation to find a solution for that quickly. And so we will absolutely have a much better and a much more intuitive and a much easier way to verify identity that does not require using a government ID of any sort.
Yeah, that is interesting. You made a lot of really interesting points right there. And for one, yeah, the process was frustrating. I got to the point where I was just like, man, okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't. And Joel's like, come on. And I'm like, dude, we can't do a podcast right now because I'm pissed. It's not going to be helpful. Like I'm just going to. So I got to say though that your team, they reached out and were very helpful. And I think everybody that we've dealt with at Voice, once we finally talked to somebody at Voice, has been just stellar. So
thank you.
So great work there. I want to actually go back to the self-governance question because you brought up at the end before Joel's question is you mentioned that in a lot of these social media profiles and platforms, there are a ton of bots. And you can tell that it happens. Like anytime that the president tweets immediately on Twitter, you can just see just massive amounts of just the same sort of comments and the same thing. So there are definitely bots. There's a lot of people out there, don't get me wrong, who hate Trump, but you can just see, and you go look on Instagram, and he'll say something and you don't see that. And he'll say something on Facebook and they won't see that because people who don't like him don't actually see their profiles. And so I just look at how it is on different platforms on his different profiles. And sometimes it's like night and day. Like on Instagram, it almost looks like he's got 95% support. On Twitter, it looks like he's got 95% people hating him. And so there's this problem with these bot networks, and it's very evident on Reddit as well, how these bot networks sort of utilize and game the algorithm. And then also with Facebook, so I have business in the Philippines, and there's actually a business in the Philippines whose job they have like multiple floors of this building. I think it's in Makati, where they basically are sitting all day and authorizing certain posts on Twitter to come through. And a lot of times they're seeing horrible stuff. They're seeing, things that nobody should see. And these people only last about 3 months at the job before they go crazy. And so how are you building in these self-moderation platforms or tools within the ecosystem to avoid, content that's illegal? You don't want to see certain things and we don't want to see them. And is part of that connecting it to your real identity? And then how are some of those tools set up so we can eliminate a lot of that manipulation?
I mean, you've covered a lot of really good points there, Travis. So the first thing I would say is that I think Reddit is probably the extreme edge of this because it is obviously an anonymous platform. And not only is it anonymous, I mean, it's built to be. I mean, anyone within Reddit could just turn on anonymous for a second, right? And so that's what it's there for. And I would say that to the earlier point that Joel was making, if you want an environment where you can just say whatever you want without any real recourse, you almost need to be anonymous at that point because it would be difficult to attach things to your actual identity if you really wanted to kind of just let out what you're feeling deep inside. But let me ask you a question first. Of all the social platforms that exist outside, which one do you think has the fewest fake accounts? Or let me ask the question a different way. Which one would you say has the least amount of fraud? Like if you see somebody on this social network, that's likely to be who they are.
LinkedIn. It's the only one. The rest of them, complete. And I think that even some of the verified accounts on Twitter aren't actually even real. I've seen some that I've questioned them. So again, is it a narrative? Are they just trying to push certain things through? Because you mentioned that earlier. We're like, oh, do we even know if this is really trending? Like this seems like a weird trend that just pops up. And then there's other ones that have so much more content. And then those get squashed and those trends don't even show up. And so you can see how that manipulation goes on. But I think the best answer would be LinkedIn. I
100% agree. To me, it's the only one. It's the only one that I know that when I see somebody on LinkedIn, I'm pretty sure they're real. Why? Well, it's their photo. Obviously there's a business purpose to it. So people are doing it to kind of make money. So there is a personal career, financial incentive to just be forthright about it. But also you're attaching yourself to your company. You're attaching yourself to your colleagues. Like there is an actual cost for you being untruthful or inflammatory on LinkedIn because it actually could affect your career and the money and your family, et cetera.
Could you maybe use aged LinkedIn accounts? Like, you got to be on LinkedIn for 5 years or more. And then because somebody can't just go create a LinkedIn and then go create a voice. Maybe there's some way like you could log in with your LinkedIn account.
Well, you're onto something, Travis. I'll leave it at that. So
Travis is onto something.
Well, I deal with fraud all the time. I have a verified account on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And for some reason, my photos are used for scammer accounts, not just for people actually using my name or some variation of my name and trying to scam people out of Bitcoin, but also my photos are used in other names to scam vulnerable women, right, around the world, especially
because he's so sexy. Mr. Joe Calm is so sexy.
Because I'm a nice looking guy, right? I think my pictures, I'm this decent, average looking all American guy, and older, I've got silver, salt and pepper hair, and so I look trustworthy, and I am, but I have to report accounts all the time. And what's really frustrating to me, especially on Facebook, is they have facial recognition built in to the platform. It'll tag me in photos. Is this you? Is this you? And yet they can't use that to go, this exact photo was already used on somebody's profile. Could it be fake? No, they use all the freaking time. And I'm wondering if there's like a lawsuit against them, even though they eventually pull them down, they don't stop the process of people using them, and then it costs me time and money and emotional duress. We're talking years of this. We're talking hundreds of fake profiles.
Why do you think they don't take that action then?
That's a really, really good question. I mean, they do when they're reported. I'm fortunate because I'm verified. And because I'm verified, I have a higher priority when something is reported. I feel bad for people who don't have verified accounts because they have no priority to my knowledge.
Yeah.
So they have had the ability to get stuff taken down, but it should never go up in the first place.
Yeah, I agree with you. And to me, it is a fundamental misalignment of incentives. I like that. A
fundamental alignment of misincentives.
Misalignment.
Misalignment. I like it. I like fundamental alignment of misincentives better. I think that's that better describes
it.
I think you're right. Actually, that is a better one. That's where we talk about architecting with integrity. That's where we talk about can't be evil. If you are setting up a business where you're garnering people's attention, and the way that you're going to make money is by selling their attention to a third party, and everything you do is in a black box and it's unverifiable and untrackable, do you really care if it's a fake account or not? I come from the media world, and the advertising industry is famous for this. You don't really know if an actual human being saw your ad or a computer saw your ad. There's no real way of verifying it. And if you actually dig into it, like the methods they use of verification are kind of funny. I mean, it's, really trying to use a variety of metrics to say this is more likely to be a real person. But honestly, if you're a mildly committed bad actor, you can devise a computer system or a botnet to easily fool whatever tools are in place. So you're really only filtering out the laziest of bad actors. And so, it is a real thing. If a bot sees an ad on Facebook and Facebook gets paid for it, do they care about that bot?
Right.
I would say no.
Yeah.
And that's why, their numbers have consistently grown over time, and why they spent so many billions of dollars on WhatsApp and all the other acquisitions. The Instagram, I think, was probably one of the best acquisitions of all time. They bought that thing for like $1 billion. And then how valuable is that platform now? I would say it's probably 100x that, if not more, just because of how sticky the platform is. So let's maybe talk about voice a bit and some of the vision of this, because with Joel and I, we played around with it. Right now, it seems kind of like Medium a bit, right? Where you're able to go in and kind of create long form thoughts more so than sort of short form like Twitter or even Facebook. And so maybe tell us the vision of voice in its current state and maybe where you see it going to over its life cycle?
Absolutely. So voice, we launched our beta February 14th of this year. And if you can imagine trying to architect a social media platform that can run on a blockchain or on a few blockchains, it's actually a significant technical accomplishment just to have the throughput to be able to do that, to be able to handle that level of engagement. So this first beta was really focused on the under the hood, like the actual EOS.IO protocol, and getting it to a place where it could handle the scale of a Facebook ultimately. And so most of what you see today is really more focused on that technical side of things. And so we've been watching a lot of how the blockchains are performing, what the read rate is, what the write rate is, and trying to get it to a place where we feel comfortable kind of unleashing it on the world. And so I joined the company about 3 weeks before that beta launched, and my focus has been on taking that incredible tech that they've built and the incredible kind of core infrastructure, and putting on top of it a very user-friendly and engaging user experience. So my focus really is we will have a big update launch later this summer, and that will include a lot of the updates that we're talking about from a UI UX standpoint. And so right now, what you're seeing is very much focused on the content creation, similar to the way that you would see with a Medium. But it is really just the bare bones of it. And so I can't get too much into what the specifics of what those changes will be yet. They're just kind of not ready for prime time. But I can say that you will be able to get into the platform and register with significantly fewer steps and requirements. So you will not need a government ID, and it will take far fewer steps. However, we will still maintain we'll still focus on maintaining a really tight-knit community and a trusted and verified community.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the function of it. For those of you watching on video, I'm sharing my screen, and this is my profile right here. There's a couple things I don't like about this that I hope you're going to fix. The first is my picture is a mugshot, because when I had to put it up for verification, it says, take off your glasses. Well, there's no photos of me online without my glasses because I'm blind without them. And, I didn't realize that this photo was going to be used as my profile photo. And I don't use my middle name anywhere, but because of identity, I put in my full name. It says right now, settings coming soon. When will I be able to customize this, upload whatever photo of me I want to use, and have my name displayed like I want?
Well, you're not the only one. And so we will be fixing that in the update. So when the update comes out, your profile will be customizable. You will be able to change your display name. You don't need to use your middle name. And you can have multiple profile pictures. So it is something that we're aware of, and while it sounds trivial, our focus was primarily under the hood, and we wanted to just kind of put up our MVP. And we learned a lot of lessons about on the edges, things like make sure it's very clear to people that this image will be their profile photo and cannot be edited for the time being. So, thank you for bearing with us on that, but it is something we're very aware of. And even though it sounds like a small point, it's actually a very, very major point in our relaunch. So
the good part is nobody's going to steal that picture to use, to scam people. So
absolutely, and it's still a closed beta, so the exposure is very limited. And so before it opens up to the world, we will be able to modify that.
Yeah, it's cool. So I actually had one of the top posts in travel. One of my first posts that I put in there, I posted a bunch of photos that I had from Iceland, and it went pretty big. And then actually Joel, he decided to be the top voice on that post, and I think he cost him 2,900 voice tokens or whatever to do that. And so it was a really interesting process. And then now if you find that post, he has the top voice on that. He's stuck with that top voice on that. So now I have, there it is right here. So now I have over 5,000 total voice, and Joel's sad because he has less.
Yeah, Travis, can I ask a question around that?
Sure.
So here I am. I'm the winning voice, and let's explain. Actually, let me back up to another tab just so people can. So we can maybe I can vote something up here that shows what happens. Okay, so here I am in the feed of all, because there's a bunch of categories here. And if I scroll down and I look for something that doesn't have a huge amount of voice, here we go. There's one right here. Add a positive word to this jar that starts with the first letter of your name. And I look here, and the current top voice is Eric Vance Walton. Now, if I want to become the top voice, I can do it for 540 voice. I've got 3,200, so I can go ahead and do that. I'm going to voice it, and boom, there it is. Now I'm on top. Now, to me, this is advertising my profile. Is that right? This is a two-part question. Let me ask that part first. This is like advertising my profile. Is that right?
It is, yes. And I want to ask some questions about this. So it is advertising your profile. And in the latest update, it also allows you to elevate one of the comments in the thread to the top comment.
It lets me elevate a comment, like my own comment or somebody else's?
Any comment. So right now you can't do it yet because you're still like the game hasn't ended, so somebody else can outvoice you. You're just the current top voice. It ends after 24 hours. Once that happens, you now have more kind of flexibility on what you can do with the page. So one of the things that we've added is the ability to choose a comment that you want to highlight and raise it to the top of the thread.
So you do that. Okay, here we go.
So now here I am. I'm the winning voice on Travis's post, and I don't know how much I spent on it, but it was a whole lot. Like 2,400 or so, but the post isn't really being active anymore. So my question is what's the point of being the top voice after the peak of views on that post? Because now that I might be the guy that's advertising there on top, but if people aren't going there anymore, who cares?
Like the top post of the all-time or top post of the month or top post of the week, sort of like how Reddit has that. I don't see that feature here currently yet.
Yeah, so let me reframe this. So I think the last word you mentioned, Travis, is the key one, which is yet. So we to frame this conversation a little bit, we plan on being in beta for a year. So the full version of our app will not launch until the first quarter of next year. Mm-hmm. And so the other way I would ask the question is, what do you think it should be? Because
there's no real reward, right? I feel like that if I win, that after a period of time, maybe 2 weeks or 30 days, that I get that voice back, right? So I spent it, I put it out there. It's like my money is being used.
You staked it, maybe. You staked it on a post.
Right. I stake it on the post. But now that it's gone, it makes me think, oh, well, now I don't know that I want to be top voice when it's really high, because it's not going to be worth anything. It's not worth the amount of tokens I'm spending.
No, I hear you. And and agreed. So up until you're the winning voice, you earn a return every time somebody outbids you. So it is very clear that playing the game has a benefit. The question is, why do I even want to win?
It's the risk. It's the risk. It's you're betting that, okay, somebody else is going to come after me and outvoice me, and I'm going to earn a profit, and the person who made the post is going to earn a profit. But there's no real benefit right now.
Yeah. And there's no time. There's no time to know that, oh, the top voice on this one is chosen in 14 minutes. It's like an auction type of a thing. And then people might be fighting for it, or they're going, nope, I don't know how much time is left on this, so I don't want to do that. I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
It's true.
Gamification of it all.
I would say to you that think about this as voice being a new economy around content, right? So the bare bones of that economy is the concept of a token, which is proxying attention. So we got step one. Step two is working that token into every interaction on the platform and then creating opportunities for earning more. Visit is the beginning of an opportunity to earn more tokens. And so what I would say to you is, the path forward from us from here, I don't. Instead of me giving you answers to these questions, what I can give you is the path that we're heading down to explore these answers. That makes sense. So we know that it is so far. The game of voice has been very sticky and very effective, except for this last question of, well, do I even really want to win? And if I don't want to win, then you kind of a pattern develops where you say, I know that generally speaking, people don't tend to voice things over 3,000 tokens. So I'll play the game until 3,000 and then I'll stop because I might lose my money, So potentially giving the money back after a period of time is one thing. Or maybe you're staking it and maybe you get a cut of all the tokens that piece has created. Right?
Yeah. So then you're incented to be an early voicer, because if you're coming in for 2 or 3 voice and this thing gets up to 3,000 voice and you're able to take a cut of that, then you just made a wise content investment.
So you see where this is headed, right? Is that if we're now in a world where we've actually created an economy around media and around attention that doesn't exist today, we can actually architect every interaction and every element of this platform into an economic model of some sort. So you're investing in content. Imagine if you could stake people. Imagine if you could stake an influencer. Imagine, I know that when Joel and Travis come on this, they're going to have an incredible following and they're going to put up some really great content. And I want to make sure that, I'm part of that. And so I will stake their invitation to the platform and stake their activities, in perpetuity over a period of time. And a portion of that is shared back. I mean, you can, once you switch the mindset into this is an economic model around attention, we're engineering a new economy, a digital economy that is actually equitable and fair instead of feudal and black box the way that Facebook and social media is today. Well, all of a sudden now you don't need to think of things as binary, as like, I put this, I get that. Things can be on a spectrum now. You put in a little bit, you get a little bit more of this, and then there's a little more of that. It becomes much more nuanced and transparent.
Yeah, so the token itself, the voice token, there's questions, that we have and that several of our audience have asked around the tokenomics, right? How many voice tokens are there? Because you're giving away 100 every day to every account that you claim them, and the second part of that is, do you see these tokens then being tradable on exchanges and people can put them into the platform? They can buy them and use them, or is everything going to be totally organic?
So we're still working on the off-platform token activity, but what I can say is this. For now, the token is meant to be on platform. We know that the possibility of it going off platform is definitely there. And we know that the possibility of some participants in the community and on the platform may want to purchase additional tokens more than they're actually able to organically earn. And so those are things that we are definitely very focused on figuring out. And those are things that also have a lot of implications and a lot of dependencies, especially when you start talking about sovereignty and financial systems and regulations on a country by country basis. You really start touching the complexity grows dramatically. So for now, we're focused on building a platform that people love, a platform that is transparent, that is open and authentic, and then if we're successful there, the next set of problems will be good problems to have.
Now, while you were saying this, I was thinking about this because there's a bunch of other sort of blockchain projects that are popping up in the social media space, and some of them are doing some interesting things. Now, would you guys ever consider, maybe open sourcing the voice platform for other people to sort of build new social media platforms on top of what you guys have already built?
Sure. I mean, our goal is to give communities a voice everywhere, and creating a more equitable and transparent and just social media ecosystem. And if the best way of doing that is to open source our platform, we'll do that. If the best way of doing that is giving our platform for free for communities to build on, we'll do that. So we're trying to keep a North Star, which is about allowing people to have a voice and to earn a voice. And the next step we're crystal clear about, and every step after that gets a little bit more and more directional, because we don't want to anchor ourselves too much into what it should be. We just want to take one step at a time and let the community shape it more. And so if that's the direction that it takes, that'd be amazing.
Nobody spends $30 million on a domain unless either they're insane or they have a grand master plan for monetization. And so how is Block One going to turn this into something that's profitable?
Well, I think the answer might be both to your previous point, because in order to have a plan and ambitions as big as Block One does, many people may call you insane. And that's where that's where the greatest things in society have come from. So
absolutely.
I'm actually very, very proud of that. And I think that I joined this company because what I found in Brendan and in Dan and the rest of the Block One team is not just an ambitious group and not just a wicked smart group of people, but committed people who are not afraid to throw down and get after it, because everyone in the world will tell you that social media is broken. Nobody's doing much about it because the challenge is huge. Talk about David and Goliath, right? Printing billions of dollars a year, and to even think about going up against that, many would just call insane.
Yeah.
But you put down $30 million, that means we mean business. And
right. So where is the business? That's the question.
So the core economic model today around media is generally around advertising. The second piece would be subscriptions. You know that since 2011, from 2011 to 2018, and I'm sorry my data is not more fresh enough, but I happen to have this data point in my back pocket. The news industry, their revenues have been cut in half over that 8-year period. They lost $15 billion in industry revenue in the US. Or that may be global, sorry, but $15 billion. In that same time period, Facebook and Google's revenues collectively approach $1 trillion. So the advertising business and the advertising method of monetization for media is no longer viable. Companies have been going out of business left and right. 250,000 journalists have lost their jobs in the past 20 years. I think 8,000 alone last year. So it is not viable anymore. And in order for us to keep media and to keep news actually working in our interest and in society's interest, which is the whole point it exists anyway, we've got to find a better economic model. The voice token presents that. We can now tokenize attention, and therefore we can now create a platform where every bit of attention given or garnered is an exchange of a token, and ultimately that token will have fiat value, because as the demand for the platform increases, demand for the token will increase because more people will engage. And so you can think of it similar to airline miles. At some point, airline miles become so big and so popular that it in and of itself becomes a currency.
Right. People do trade and broker them. You can buy miles.
Absolutely. And so that is definitely the direction that we're heading in. And as I was kind of saying before, we know what the North Star is. We know where we're going to get to eventually. The exact steps we're going to take to getting there is still unclear because the regulatory environment is still maturing around this. So we have to work with regulators to chart a path that everybody's comfortable with to getting there. So I wouldn't tell you exactly how that's going to happen just yet, but it is a milestone that I feel is inevitable.
I'll tell you, it's one of the reasons why we got so excited about Voice originally was, we followed Dan Larimer from BitShares over to Steam, and then we're like, oh, here he is cruising on over to EOS. And wow, this could be really interesting if you build this platform, because not only has he done it before, he's done it twice before. He has coins that have been in the top 20 forever, right? And so we're like, you know what? Wow, this voice thing sounds awesome. Joel and I, hey, let's create a podcast because we think this could be something that could be really big when they got the horsepower behind it to do that. So maybe as we sort of wrap up, how has it been, working with Dan Larimer and the technical minds over there? Because it sounds like to me that, the platform and the technology and just the mind behind Dan is just a really sharp dude. And so that's what put a lot of faith into us right at the beginning.
Same. Like I said, when I met Brendan and Dan, I saw two very unique individuals. You asked specifically about Dan and working with him on a technical standpoint. I'll first say, as a person, Dan is one of the most principled and committed and passionate people that I've had the opportunity to work with. And so you take that and you pair it with just a one-of-a-kind type of mind, you have something special. And so it's not so, when you meet Dan, you are not surprised at all as to how he's been able to have such an incredible string of successes and such a prolific career thus far at such a young age. He will have an idea, will kick something around. 48 hours later, he will have just gone through a marathon coding session and delivered a pretty complete product single-handedly. The kind of thing that takes a small army 6 months to make. So there is no shortage of like jaw-dropping moments, and I mean literally this happens consistently. And so I'm actually in the position of, for the first time in my career, to be quite frank with you, of trying to keep up with this incredible pace of innovation. And so I will say that we have all the pieces necessary to take a really good run at taking this hill and really pushing social media into the next phase of its existence, and putting this kind of the social media Middle Ages behind us.
Yeah, well, we're all for that. We're cheering for you and for anybody that's seeking to make this kind of impact in the world, because the big social giants, they have too much power, too centralized, and too out of control. So Salah Zalatimo, did I pronounce your last name right? Is it Zalatimo?
Yes, you did. Thank you, Joel.
Nailed it. He is at Salafel on Twitter. And of course, those of you in the beta, you can find myself and Mr. Travis Wright on the Voice platform. Thanks for joining us. And we're going to have you back probably more often than you want to talk to us, because we want to keep up to date on this.
I always enjoy talking to you guys. Thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. Have a great day, and keep sending the feedback.
Thanks to Salah for granting us that interview, and we do look forward to hearing more from Voice. They're definitely iterating slowly. This interview was done about a month ago, and there's been a couple minor changes, but I think they're really taking their sweet time, and I hope that's because they're doing the analysis on what they're seeing and don't want to just kind of, ready, fire, aim, but take really calculated direction on what their next steps are.
I agree. I think that this is, if you've had a chance to go into Voice, or if you have not had a chance, I would say go to voice.com, get access to the beta, and they're going to be launching it full on here soon. And I know that since it's in beta, and I realize that it's in beta, and then once they go live to the next one, they're going to wipe out all your voice. And so that's like a detriment. To me, it's kind of like a negative demotivator. It's like, oh, so I got to do all this stuff and then all my voice goes away.
That's not untrue, Travis. The voice does go away, but what you are doing is you're building up your following. So those, when they do open to the public, people who are using the beta are going to have that advantage in terms of having more exposure. So right now, I've got 65 people that are listening to me. That's what they call, when somebody's following, and I'm listening to 30 people. So the voice will go away, but I don't think that your profile will. I mean, I can't see them wiping out the relationships that you've built on a social network.
No, they won't do that, but you're wiping away your voice balance, which was a sad thing, but that's okay. I don't mind. We'll get started again.
They do level the playing field. It's kind of like a beta for, a lot of games. In games, you'll go and you'll do the stuff and you'll level up. But then when the real game releases, everybody's reset to 0. So to level the playing field. And I understand that. Otherwise, it's like they would be giving preference to people who were in the beta. But definitely go apply and try it. It's super interesting. And I don't post there regularly, but I do like to post content there. And I'm really looking forward to when I can replace my profile picture with one that doesn't look like a mugshot.
Yeah. And you know what? I saw your post on Voice about this whole thing, and it is interesting. You had a great post there, but
Which
like
one?
the wax post about
Okay.
wax and tops, and all this great mainstream news about wax, and the price hasn't really budged. I don't think the people have caught up to it yet.
No, I don't think so either. But crypto doesn't move too much on news anymore. Remember during the ICO season, it's like this is coming out. There's going to be a press release, and a token will go vroom.
Oh yeah. Guess
to the
what?
moon.
We've updated our site, and we finally have a white paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That era is gone, but I do think it pays to kind of note where crypto is at right now, as long as we're in the banter section of the show. It is 12:20 p.m. on May 18th, Mountain Standard Time. And Bitcoin yesterday got almost to 10,000 again. It's down to 96.24 at the moment. The total market cap, 265 billion. And things are pretty much in the green. There's a lot of indicators that we're not going to see a bear market. Things might not take off quickly, but there's definitely some sort of stability right now here post halving.
It appears. I mean, and think about this. I mean, what was the price whenever the Rona started taking over, and then everything crashed, right? So we're above where we were when the Rona went down.
The Rona also, I don't know if you're watching the precious metals, but I like to kind of keep my eye on gold and silver prices. Gold is back to 1734, which is pretty much full recovery as it's been. And silver is catching up. Just a week ago was down in the low $15 range. It's at $17.15 today. So the ratio is just about 100 to 1 again from gold to silver.
Yeah. I'm actually I'm reading the post that you had there on Voice, and actually using my voice and commenting on it. And there's one guy, Alexander Patrick Lenencole, he says, I can't think of a bigger mainstream moment in blockchain yet, and a lot of the crypto people seem to have ignored this. I think the world changed when Tops and Wax started doing this thing, because the amount of NFTs that were on the Wax blockchain just skyrocketed. The secondary market of this, people in collectibles, nostalgia. Gary Vee talks about it all the time. Nostalgia is going to make a big comeback, and all these different things around nostalgia that are interesting to people from the 80s and 90s and even early 2000s are something that pull on people's heartstrings. You connect that to NFTs and make them digitally collectible. You can have them on your phone and look at them, and you can trade them, and you can sell them. I mean, I got 3,500 wax. Which, let me look at the math on that, because it's just crazy to me. $122 that somebody bought one card from me from. I spent a total of, I think, about $200 on these packs, and I've made way more of my money back than I basically got a Prism set for free and a base set for free because of how I was trading and selling some of these cards.
Now, what I'm not seeing, I've noticed there's somebody, one particular user, ojeau.wham, it's anonymous on the Wax blockchain. So some user bought a bunch of packs and has listed a ton of them at $14.75. I don't know if they're selling or not. We would need to look at the Wax blockchain to see what people are buying.
I just sold one for $14.50.
So, there's the question is like, okay, I'm looking here. I have, let me see, 3, 6, 9. I have 12 unopened packs. Is this a bubble that's going to burst, and should I sell them? Or, I used to collect wacky packages. That was those of you who are old enough to remember the original wacky packages from the 70s. They were spoofs of commercial products, like Listerine and Mr. Clean and Wrigley's gum.
I vaguely remember those.
Well, if you have the first series of those, they are worth more, especially an unopened pack is worth more than a second, third, fourth, fifth edition. So assuming that this has been as successful as it has been, that is known, assuming that Topps wants to continue this, there will be a series 2 garbage pail kits. And there's going to be a bunch of new people that are going to be brought to the space and go, oh, I missed series 1. And it's very possible that because of the rarity of getting an unopened pack of Series 1, that those prices could go even higher.
Yeah. My thought on that, though, Mr. Joel Com, is like I started selling some. I sold a couple packs when they were 6X, my original price. I sold some more when they were 8X. And then I sold a couple more when they were 10X. I have a couple packs left, I think. And I'm just like, dude, 10X? Like, and then I used those profits to get all those additional cards that I didn't have from the packages that I opened so I could complete a set. So I have a base set and a Prism set complete for basically $0 out of pocket. And I wonder, and if I need to, if the prices are even more advantageous to break up that set later and sell them individually or to sell them as a set, I mean, I bet that those two sets would go for 30 or 40,000 wax at this point if I sold both of them together.
Super waxy.
I know, it's crazy. It's an interesting thing, but think about that when they, as Joel mentioned, they started doing football cards and baseball cards and bringing back old school, Babe Ruths and Ted Williams and Mickey Mantles and, all these other cool players. And just here's their digital card. And there's only, 2,000 of them. But here's what's interesting is on these garbage pail kids, we've seen the statistics and of the base ones, the most there are of any base card is like 560. Mm-hmm. And the most there are of any of the Prisms is like 330. But then there's two variants. There's 1 through 41A and there's 1 through 41B. And the B variants, there's always been twice as many of those. That's how it was with the originals. And so with some of these sketch cards, there's only like 15 of them in existence. That's why some of these, like the Atom Bomb card, I saw an Atom Bomb go for 25,000 wax.
Wow. I think this is one of the reasons that some people might want to shop around. Of course, we are not financial advisors, but I've been trying to slowly complete my Prism set as well. I'm still missing probably about a dozen, and some of them are really expensive. I'm like, okay, I may never have those, but I do think they are truly collectible. There is a very limited supply, and when these do hit mainstream, and they will, this is not an if. I would bet on this, as would you. This is not an if. This is a when NFTs hit mainstream. I'm not saying that the garbage pail kids are going to be worth a ton, but NFTs and digital collectibles are going to be huge, and people are going to be buying them at ridiculous prices.
Yeah. Hey, send me a list over of which ones of those that you have, and then maybe we can make a trade. I could trade a sketch or something for you.
Sounds sketchy.
I know.
All right, let's.
I do for as one final thing. I did the most I spent on one card to complete the set was that freaking Atom Bomb.
How much was that?
It was 2,000 wax, which was $70.
Holy cow!
But I sold 2 packs, and then I made that money, and then I bought the one that I needed to complete a set. So I was like,
it's profitable, and
it's all magical.
Internet
money
or magical internet NFTs.
They're nifties.
Let's give a shout out to MobiPay.io. Money's been around for a long, long time. If you saw Mr. Travis Wright's Funny Money presentation at Virtual Blockchain Week, you'll know it started with cowrie shells and then went to precious metals and then minted coins and then to paper money. But the transfer of modern money sucks. It's expensive. You got fees. It's really difficult across borders. It's all going mobile, gang. Check out MobiPay.io, the beta of their incredibly fast blockchain system to be able to on and off fiat and cryptocurrencies is pretty slick stuff. MobiPay.io, you'll get $10 in free MBX tokens for beta testing the platform with them, and we're fans.
Well, Mr. Joel Com, as you work to complete your Prism set, let me know what's anything on that, and then I'm gonna go here and there's so many opportunities in these secondary markets to look for buy low and to sell high, and it's just kind of a fun thing. So if you ever like trading digital cards, I would say go check it out. GPK.market's one, SimpleMarket.io is another one, but that one's really hard because you can't sort them. So go check it out. I'm going to go back and play with some more garbage pail kids, Mr. Joel Com.
That sounds awesome. Like I'm 12 again. Everybody, stick around for our next episode. It's coming your way soon. In fact, the next episode is going to be the one and only Anthony Pompliano. If you didn't get a chance to hear the interview at Virtual Blockchain Week, we're going to be sharing that with you here, and you're going to dig it. So stick around. That'll come out episode number 408 on Wednesday, followed by our Friday bad news with our partners at Cointelegraph.com. We'll catch you guys then until we meet again.
Yeah. Again, big shout out to the CEO of Voice. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate that. Great interview. Love that. I was going to throw that before you throw that in there, but just give him another final shout out.
I've lost my voice.
Oh, no.
Stay bad.
Who's bad?
The Bad Crypto Podcast is a production of Bad Crypto LLC. The content of the show, the videos, and the website is provided for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice of any kind. You shouldn't make any decisions as to finances, investing, trading, or anything else based on this information without undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional financial advisor. Please understand that the trading of Bitcoins and alternative cryptocurrencies have potential risks involved. Anyone wishing to invest in any of the currencies or tokens mentioned on this podcast should first seek their own independent professional financial advisor.